So, welcome back and thank you for joining in on our quarterly call. My name is Jonas, Tellander, CEO and founder of Storytel, and on my side I have...
Sofie Zettergren, CFO at Storytel.
And we are at the startup of the fall activities here at Storytel and trying to sum up the summer. But first of all, we need to just look back and see what happened actually before the summer in the second quarter.
Yeah,
that's primarily what we're going to talk about here. So, to sum up the second quarter, streaming sales are up 34% on a yearly basis in the second quarter to 320 million Swedish kronor. This is exactly on our forecast that we gave in mid-May, so we're quite happy about that. I think we have a fairly good track record of forecasting the subscriber base and revenues here at Storytel, and we hit this one as well. So, looking at the launches, we launched Germany in this quarter, and this is our 17th market. So we're now on 17 markets, selling Storytel audiobook and ebook subscriptions to people.
We also announced some other markets, so the markets coming up closest to here is Brazil and South Korea.
And we have some interesting things to share with you during this call. So first we're going to hand over to Derek Laliberté, who's analyst at ABG. Hello, Derek.
Hi, Derek.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on this quarter. So let's jump right into the questions. My first question, you saw very strong growth in the second quarter, posting a subscriber growth of 43% year on year, quite impressive. Now what do you expect for the second half of the year, and how do you expect growth will be divided between your Nordics and your non-Nordic segment? And also, where does this put you in relation to your previously communicated full year guidance?
So that's right. And as you know by now, Q3 is our strongest quarter, and this quarter seemed to be no exception. We will grow the subscriber base with around 120,000 subscribers, which is an improvement from the same quarter last year. And also in relation to our previously guided target, we think we will still end the year at around 1.1 million subscribers. Looking at the split between the Nordics and the non-Nordic region, the Nordic markets are substantially bigger and are still growing at around 25%. However, the non-Nordic markets are expected to have a higher relative growth going forward, so their share of the total base will increase going forward.
So growth in your non-Nordic segments is quite impressive indeed, and it also seems reasonable to expect the growth in absolute number of subscribers to really start to pick up next year. From your perspective, looking at the overseas markets, are there any that currently stand out, either from a positive or a negative perspective in your view?
Yes, so as you know, we talked about this in previous quarterly calls. Basically, it takes a couple of years to ramp up markets. So we start to see really good growth outside of the Nordic region is now, since some time back in Netherlands. That's really, growing and becoming stronger and stronger. We also raised the price now in the third quarter, so that's going to be exciting to follow the path to profitability for the Netherlands in the second quarter and hopefully turn profitable early next year at latest. And then we have Russia and Poland that are growing really, really nicely. And then we also see Turkey, that's a fairly new market we launched only last year. That's already getting to some really interesting subscriber numbers.
So we received some very good news earlier this year, especially after last year's ECOFIN decision to allow member states to reduce VATs on digital book formats. And now we have both Sweden, Finland, as well as Norway, which have reduced their respective taxes. Looking into the second half of the year, the third and fourth quarter, what do you expect for ARPU effects as a result of this? Also trying to keep in mind that the family subscriptions, an increased number of those, could have a reverse effect on ARPU.
Yeah, so this is of course a very welcomed decision, and as we have talked about earlier, in Sweden and in Finland we have kept our price levels, and the reason for that is that we want to pass away as much as possible of the gain to the author. In Norway, on the other hand, the VAT will be not only reduced but actually lowered to 0%. So we think it's fair to pass away some of that gain to the customer as well. So from 1st of July we lowered the price from 199 NOK to 179. And of course this will boost the ARPU in Q3, and as you can see in our forecast we expect ARPU to go up to over 150 krona in Q3 as compared to 138 in Q2. So yeah, this is very good for all stakeholders basically. Looking forward, I mean, family subscription has been quite successful so far, which could have a reverse effect on the ARPU, but we will come back to that in the coming quarters.
Following your new segmentation split that you posted in Q1, you made a very positive contribution margin of 29%, and the trend is quite positive indeed. What's reasonable to expect long term in this region?
So right now 4 out of 5 markets in the Nordic region are profitable, and we have quite good margins as well. Looking at Q1 we had a very good contribution margin, and there are some fluctuations between the different quarters. So as you can see in Q2 it's dropped down a little bit, and that has mainly to do with us spending more marketing in Q2 and also directed towards the end of the quarter, where we see the revenues first in Q3. And looking at the long term, I mean, we want to keep this strong margin as we have in Nordic, and we think we will be able to keep our margins and then hopefully also improve slightly.
So following the introduction of your time-based compensation model, as well as in light of your negotiations ongoing with Bonnier, we've seen more exclusive content hit the local market here. Is this something that you believe is here to stay, or is it only a temporary thing?
Yeah, exclusivity or non-exclusivity, that's the question. I mean, looking at the TV streaming business, a lot of the content is indeed exclusive to one of the services, and it's rarely shared across services. We think that this is not the way that the book streaming services will develop. We think that the absolute vast majority of the catalog and of the new releases will be available on all platforms. That's going to be a way, I think, to keep a good price level that we are at today. For instance, on the Swedish market with 169 krona, we can keep that level because we have a lot of news in the service, and we see our competitors not really going in and price competing too hard. Slightly priced below us, but not that much. So we think that over the long term, most of the content will be non-exclusive, but there will always be exclusive content that we want to bring to our customers first.
And we do have a very strong release coming up soon, right?
Yes, indeed. I mean, we have the 6th book in the David Lagercrantz books about Lisbeth Salander and the Millennium 6, and that's going to come up in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be super exciting. Yeah, the biggest book release this year. Yeah. And that's also, I mean, that's Norstedt's book or title, and it's really the title that will kind of make or break the year, I think, for Norstedt's, and that's how the publishing business typically works. It's a hit and miss business, although the dynamics is changing a little bit. If you look 5 years back, you were in publishing businesses very, very dependent in Sweden on the new releases in their sales in the physical format. Whereas now what you can see from the streaming services and primarily Storytel is that you have a huge backlist sales it's really picking up strongly, but at the same time you see a drop on the overall market for the physical sales. The overall sales, although is still increasing, I think we think that will continue in the coming years. But there's a clear shift towards more non-news type of titles that's been on the market for a couple of years.
So it takes a little longer to recoup the investment, but the book will have a much longer life.
Yeah, calls for long-term thinking, and that's something we like at Storytel.
Yeah.
And finally, could you give an update on the progress of your additional products, namely the Storytel Reader device and the Story magazine subscription service?
Yeah, so I mean, our main product, the Storytel subscription for where people typically consume audiobooks, is really the huge driver of Storytel's success and of our sales growth. But we feel and we think that there are really strong, good adjacent services and products like the Storytel Reader, the ebook reader that we launched last year, and we're starting to learn a lot of things from that launch. We can clearly see that the reader subscribers, the people that buy a reader and then sign up to Storytel, becomes much more loyal and devoted during the first year, and obviously read a lot more ebooks than the average Storytel subscriber. So that makes us believe that we're really tapping into a new user behavior, and that can become really, really interesting for Storytel, but we need to kind of set the scene for a new device, for an e-book device that people want to buy, and make it, you know, hot and sexy, like you know, some of the hardware manufacturers in electronics are really good at. And that's something we're working on and trying to find new customers. And now, early this year, we acquired Story, the magazine subscription service. We've rolled it out to our subscribers as a bundle where you can actually consume it for free until end of September, and thereafter it will start costing 50 krona additionally on your subscription. And that's been received very well. So looking awesome, actually. They have a very, very strong rating in the Story app in App Store. So we can see that people are happy with it.
Yeah.
And really
a lot of people want to read magazines during the vacation, and then we just need to make them stay as well after the summer.
So that's off to an exciting start.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a nice day. I'll see you next quarter.
All right. Thank you, Derek.
So yeah, to sum up, I mean, we you know, looking excited to the third quarter. We're in the middle of it. We can see it will be a very good quarter, boosted by, you know, the VAT reductions you talked about, and, you know, another summer of strong uplift in the subscriber base. Yeah,
and always exciting to come back from vacation. I think a lot of people are excited to kick off new projects and make it the autumn also successful.
Good. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. See you next quarter.